Next thing I wanted to show you is that what I missed when I was away was, in my clinic, I want people to come to the support group. And so I have people do lots of nice favors for me because it's free. I don't want money for that. I want them to come to the group and engage and teach other people about the ketogenic diet. But one of the best gifts I get from people is bone broth. So I'm going to pull up the recipe here in just a second because I want you to see why I missed this when I was in my when I was away from home. So, all right, so this container is something that one of my good friends taught all of us how to do, which was you make a bunch of this and then you give it away as like practically gifts to your people in your support group. But I like people to see is that it is gelatinous. That is bone broth. And it is really thick and it has incredible nutrients in it. So when I'm sick and when I'm fasting because I'm sick, my Dr. Boz ratio is not going to be good. I'm sick. I'm making cortisol. My glucose is going to go up. But what am I doing to help my body feel better? And one of them is I'm eating bone broth that usually somebody else has made for me. But the key to making beautiful bone broth like this, although salt is very important. Ooh, it smells really good. Is, yes, if you want good bone broth, I don't trade chickens for medical care. I have chicken feet. And it is a bunch of chicken feet that go into those bone broths that if you want gelatinous bone broth, you have to have nutrients in there. You have to have the proteins that are a part of how that, if you don't remember in the book where I was writing about my mom, I said, in her journey, she was sick. She was super sick and she should have died. But she lived off of 1/4 of a cup of this kind of bone broth, this kind of gelatinous bone broth, which I couldn't find anywhere. All of the bone broth I found was watery, and which just means that it doesn't mean it doesn't have good nutrients in it. It's just much more watered down. But Grandma Rose would get 1/4 of a cup of this with nice salt, and she did that for over a month, and that's how she survived on her ketogenic journey. What I want to show you is a recipe here. So let's go here. So if you look at this bone broth is from my good friend Lauren, who is a way better cook than me. She perfected this, and she has this really funny blog that she writes about it in her meat, butter, eggs. So if you want this, you can go to that website, and you can see that she went from she's not from South Dakota. She was from Texas, but she was in South Dakota for a season. And I would give her these chicken feet and say, please make some bone broth. I really, not that I don't do it. I don't do it. I don't like to do it. I don't like to mess with it. But yeah, so everybody has skills. So chicken feet were needed for this. And so at first she was like, what do you do with those nails? She's like, she was trimming them off and scrubbing them down. And she writes about this. So I just want to show you how much her I think of it as her South Dakota-ness, her prairie woman awoke as she learned how to deal with this. So she says, yeah, 8 cups of water. What we do in our family is we'll have rotisserie chicken. And when the rotisserie chicken is done, we take the bones and put them in a 5-gallon bucket in the freezer. And so we just collect enough bones. We get enough of them. We usually give them to somebody to say, hey, make some bone broth from this, will you? So a couple of chickens, yeah. And then a package of chicken feet, about 20. So throw bones, chicken feet, salt water into your pot. And that's the part that I really have found is super funny. She didn't have that as her original. She was scrubbing and throwing out the dirt in them. But she says, yeah, put them in an Instapot. 4 hours it takes to kind of take those bones and that chicken broth to get the nutrients out of it. Then you let it sit, run through a cheesecloth, and that fat on the top is good. It actually tastes really good. So again, this is how we kept Grandma alive. Here's where she talks about the chicken feet. Don't leave out the feet. It's the collagen from that chicken feet. Glucosamine, chondroitin are absolutely part of that. That's what makes it gelatinous. It adds the flavor. So does good salt. And then the Instapot really does all the work. You're really not going to have to spend time taking those feet and blanching them and trimming the toenails. Don't do that. That's way too much energy. There's no need for that. So as I look at some of the the helpful parts of when I'm sick. I now suck on a salt rock. I make my kids suck on a salt rock. I don't really check my numbers. I mean, I did it just out of curiosity, is like how bad was my sugar and ketones, and they were awful. I don't know. I don't think I posted them, but so I don't check numbers as much when I'm that sick. I will fast starting again today. I fasted when I was sick, but the numbers aren't why you're doing it. I do love bone broth, and then I sip on these peak teas, which right now I'm doing the cinnamon one with the black tea, and I love it. It really is easier on my throat. You've just seen me riffed on how important it is to use amazing ingredients for your bone broth, including chicken feet and really actual bones. And I talk about, you did a really good job if it's gelatinous. Okay, that's super high maintenance. I love it because I have patients that will do this for me and they will bring it to me, but it isn't feasible for everybody. The only replacement I've found that has the quality bone broth, because it's made from awesome ingredients and there's not a bunch of extra stuff put in their bone broth, is the brand called Kettle on Fire. They do a really awesome job of keeping their nutrients high, keeping their carbohydrates low. And although it's not gelatinous at room temperature, it's just because my beautiful bone broth from my patient was cooked a little longer and we just removed more water. But the nutrients in Kettle on Fire and the nutrients in my private supply of bone broth, very similar. So if you're looking for a hack, this is my favorite. There'll be a link in the show notes, but if you want to find my favorites, you can go to www.bozmd.com. That's BOZMD.com. You'll see when you click on Dr. Boz Favorites that I really love the beef broth. There are no carbohydrates in there and it tastes really good. There's also a chicken broth that's awesome. But if I get to pick my favorite chicken flavor, I really like their coconut curry lime. And there are a few carbohydrates in there, but it is awesome tasting. If I run out of supply for my patients, this is where I turn. The two that don't have any carbohydrates in there are the beef broth and the chicken broth. So you'll see those on my favorites list. And if you have the ability to make it yourself, that's awesome. But if you're looking for the way that the rest of us function, check out Kettle on Fire. Signing off, I'm Dr. Boz, improving your health one ketone at a time. See you next time.
Please subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos. Stay tuned.